Dan, let's fast forward to this week when we saw Trump get indicted in Manhattan. So, how will this impact Truth Social? You go on Twitter, Donald Trump hasn't tweeted since January 2021. Now he's the A block of every news channel from now until who knows when. This is an ongoing story. It's, injecting him back into that news cycle. Is this good news for Truth Social?
Certainly, a lot of retail investors believe that it is. Shares of the SPAC that's going to merge with Trump's business rose by about 10% overnight after the indictment came out. So, in kind of an interesting way, you have retail investors betting that the indictment is actually going to, in some ways, help Donald Trump and make at least one of his assets richer. By their math, it would boost the value of that asset by $100 million or so. And obviously, if the shares continue to climb, it could get even sweeter for Trump. But we've seen this before where there are momentary blips where the price of the SPAC that's merging with Trump's business rises. This happened when Trump announced that he was going to run for president again. Same sort of thing that you're talking about. People are excited about, hey, he's going to be on TV, he's going to be on the front page of every newspaper, and people have to listen to him. So therefore, you're going to have much more people signing up for Truth Social. And if you all of a sudden have that user base, then you're likely to attract more advertisers. That means more revenue for the business, could be great for the business. That's the case for that investors were looking at last night, why they were buying up shares of the stock. But what we've seen is that although there are these momentary spikes, then they tend to just gradually peter out and end up lower than they were even before the spike. And my guess is that in this case, we're going to see a similar thing because the numbers at which it's trading right now make no sense at all when you look at the number of users that Trump's business actually has. It should be trading much, much lower than it currently is. But there are still just a bunch of people who trust Donald Trump and want to be in business with him. And so that's propping things up at the moment.
Dan, that's interesting you say that because in your piece you mentioned the graveyard of Donald Trump ventures, including, Trump's college thing or Trump University, things like that. Why do people still believe in him to invest in him like that?
I think that if you look at Donald Trump in some way, you can see anything you want to see. You can see a string of failures. You can also see enormous success. And depending on your perspective and what you want to see, you could look at Trump's business past and say, hey, here's a guy who's made a ton of money and has really good business instincts. And oh, by the way, also managed to get himself elected president of the United States. I mean, how do you define success if not by that? This is somebody that I want to be in business with. But you can also, of course, look at Trump Steaks, gotrump.com, Trump branded this, that, and you can say none of this stuff exists anymore. And it's all petered out and failed. Why would you ever want to be in business with this person? In this case, unfortunately, for those who are betting on Trump, I think that it's more likely to end up petering out and sharing some graveyard space with some of those earlier ventures.
And on a separate note, is he the first person that you've ever reported on that could potentially make money after an indictment or because of the indictment?
I can't think of another. But, if you're a media person, oftentimes controversy, maybe not indictments, does help your stock price. If you look, for instance, at what happened to Facebook shares in 2017, 18, 19, when, everyone seemed to be criticizing Facebook, both on the left and the right, saying that it was a garbage platform. And yet there was tons of people on Facebook and tons of attention, and advertisers were paying huge money to have ads on there. And therefore the stock price of Facebook soared. And so if you're a media person, it does make some sense that controversy could boost your business. An indictment, of course, is a different level of controversy, though.
And what about Truth Social? What's next for the platform, do you think?
Well, it's sort of petering along. It gains about 100,000 users per month. That's really not much. Right now, it has about 5 million users. So you're talking about adding maybe a million per year. Again, it takes a long way to get to that 81 million that they had ultimately we're hoping to get to by 2026. So, they have to figure out whether or not they can complete this merger, see what happens with these investigations. If the merger does not go through, then Trump's business is going to have to figure out some other way to operate, either on its own or by raising money from private investors, venture capitalists, having Trump himself inject money into the business. But there are serious concerns about whether it will continue to be able to exist without an infusion of capital. And right now, the SPAC infusion does not look super promising.